The night was quiet, the city streets glistening from a recent rain, when Coco Jones drove her black SUV down the empty road. Suddenly, flashing red and blue lights cut through the darkness, forcing her to the side as two police cruisers screeched to a halt behind her. One officer stepped out immediately, his posture aggressive, voice sharp as he barked commands she hadn't even had a chance to respond to. The second officer lingered behind, shifting uneasily, sensing tension that didn't belong on a routine stop. Coco kept her hands on the wheel, calm but alert, her eyes scanning the scene as the cold night air wrapped around them. The audience could see this was no ordinary traffic stop. Something was about to go terribly wrong, and the mistake these officers were about to make would change everything in an instant. But no one realized just how dangerous their mistake was. Coco Jones lowered her window slowly, keeping both hands clearly visible on the steering wheel, her voice calm and steady as she introduced herself. The officer who had approached immediately smirked, his tone dripping with arrogance as he mocked her politeness, making unnecessary comments about her presence on the street. Without warning, he demanded to search her vehicle, rifling through her belongings with exaggerated motions, accusing her of wrongdoing she hadn't committed. The second officer hovered nearby, his expression uneasy but silent, allowing the abuse to continue. Cars drove past slowly, headlights cutting through the darkness, some drivers leaning out or raising phones to record, their faces reflecting a mix of curiosity and fear. Unwilling to step in, the imbalance of power was stark. A composed, skilled woman faced authority willing to manipulate and intimidate. Every gesture, every word from the officers screamed control and arrogance, while Coco's calm persistence made it clear that she was neither intimidated nor unprepared. The audience could feel the tension, understanding exactly how high the stakes had become. The aggressive officer's eyes widened as he held up a small, suspicious bag he claimed to have found in Coco Jones' SUV. "What's this?" he barked, his voice sharp, trying to make it sound like undeniable evidence. Coco kept her hands visible, her voice steady as she questioned their actions, asking calmly why they were accusing her without cause. She refused to let anger take hold, refusing to escalate the situation. The officers only grew louder, mocking her, belittling her in front of the growing crowd, throwing serious accusations that seemed almost surreal, given the calm and measured presence she maintained. Bystanders slowed their cars, some stepping out, some pulling out phones, whispering to each other, uncertain and hesitant. "Isn't that Coco Jones?" someone murmured, but doubt lingered. The disbelief was palpable. Tension crackled in the air as the officers continued their harassment, pressing their false narrative. Coco stayed calm, her silence hiding a storm about to erupt, and the audience could sense that the injustice unfolding would soon meet a force far greater than mere words. Every flicker of flashlight on her face, every shadow on the wet asphalt, every whispered comment from the onlookers heightened the suspense, pulling everyone deeper into a situation that felt on the verge of explosion. The scene was electric with anticipation, and it was clear that the officers had no idea who they were really confronting. The aggressive officer grabbed Coco Jones by the arm, pushing her firmly against the hood of her SUV, his intent clear: to intimidate and assert control. She didn't flinch, her eyes steady, her voice calm but carrying unmistakable authority as she said, "I don't think you know what you're doing." The crowd nearby reacted instantly, gasps rippling through the witnesses as whispers spread, their shock at the unfolding injustice palpable. Every gesture from the officers became more exaggerated, their frustration visible. Yet Coco's composed stance refused to give them the satisfaction of fear. Suspense hung thick in the air, each second stretching as the audience wondered whether she would endure silently or finally take decisive action. The tension reached its peak. It felt as if the balance of power had completely tipped against her. And yet, the strength behind her calm gaze suggested a dramatic shift was imminent. Every movement, every strained expression, every whispered remark from the bystanders reinforced the sense that something extraordinary was about to change the course of the encounter. The wet asphalt reflected the flashing lights of the patrol cars, intensifying the cinematic feel of the moment, as Coco's presence alone seemed to command the attention of everyone around, holding the scene on the brink of an explosive turning point. Coco Jones held her posture perfectly still, every muscle relaxed yet radiating controlled strength. Her eyes swept across the two officers with calm precision, taking in every twitch of discomfort, every falter in their authority. Then, her voice cut through the tension like steel, low and unwavering. "Are you done?" The words landed with unexpected weight, freezing the aggressive officer mid-motion. His hand twitched toward his holster almost instinctively, a reflex born of training and fear, while the other officer's jaw tightened, sweat forming at his temple as uncertainty clouded his features. Coco's movements became deliberate, almost ceremonial, as she slowly reached into her jacket. Each second stretched like an eternity. The flashing red and blue lights bounced off the wet asphalt, reflecting across the SUV's hood and illuminating her composed face. The crowd that had been holding its breath now leaned forward instinctively, phones raised, recording every calculated movement, every subtle glance, every flicker of emotion on the officers' faces. The suspense was electric. When Coco finally revealed her polished D badge, the metal gleamed brilliantly under the streetlights, stark and undeniable in its authority. A ripple of disbelief surged through the onlookers. The officers froze completely, their arrogance evaporating instantly, replaced by shock and fear. Their mouths opened, yet no words came, only the frantic shuffling of feet and uneasy glances between them. The bystanders who had been whispering now murmured in astonishment, their eyes wide as they realized the staggering truth. The woman they had tried to humiliate, to intimidate with false accusations, was the law itself. Every gasp, every shutter click from phones amplified the gravity of the moment. Coco Jones's calm, measured actions had entirely shifted the power dynamic. She was no longer just a target but the undeniable authority commanding the scene. The once domineering officers now appeared small, their control utterly broken, and the air itself seemed charged with vindication. The injustice that had hung thick over the street moments ago was replaced with awe, respect, and the unmistakable clarity that the truth had finally asserted itself. Everyone present knew that nothing would ever feel the same again, and that the woman they had underestimated was far more formidable than anyone could have imagined. Coco Jones took a deliberate step back from her SUV, holding her D badge high for everyone to see. Her voice was calm, but carried undeniable authority as she spoke. "I am Coco Jones, a senior D agent, currently assigned to investigate corruption cases exactly like this one." The words struck the officers like light, their faces drained of color. The arrogance that had fueled their actions moments ago replaced entirely by terror and disbelief. They stumbled slightly, their hands dropping to their sides, realizing the full weight of the mistake they had made. The crowd that had been watching in tense silence erupted into murmurs and whispers, the words spreading like wildfire. "They planted drugs on a D agent. This is Coco Jones. She is the law itself." Every bystander who had recorded the confrontation now felt the gravity of what they had witnessed, their eyes fixed on Coco as if drawn by the sheer force of her presence. The once dominant officers were now trapped, cornered in the middle of the street, their posturing meaningless against someone whose authority was real and absolute. Coco's every movement commanded attention, her calm precision asserting control over the situation entirely. Her gaze swept across the scene, assessing every detail, while the officers shifted uneasily under the realization that they were utterly exposed. The flashing lights from the patrol cars reflected off her badge, creating an almost cinematic halo around her, emphasizing the power that had shifted so completely. In that moment, the balance of power flipped completely. Coco Jones no longer faced intimidation. She now dominated the scene, commanding respect and fear in equal measure. The audience could feel the tension release in waves as the corrupt officers were forced to confront not only the truth of her authority, but the consequences that would follow. Every whisper, every glance, every stunned expression reinforced that the situation had transformed completely, and that justice, sudden and undeniable, had taken hold. Within minutes, additional police units arrived at the scene, their engines cutting through the tension like a sharp blade. As they approached, the officers immediately saluted Coco Jones, acknowledging her authority without hesitation. The corrupt officers who had tried to intimidate and frame her were now the ones facing humiliation, their hands cuffed by their own colleagues, forced to confront the consequences of their reckless action. Their faces burned with shame and fear as they were led away, the crowd watching in stunned silence. Coco turned to the bystanders, her calm presence reassuring them. Her voice steady as she said, "Justice still exists and wrongs will be correct." People who had been tense moments ago now exhaled, a collective emotional release sweeping through the street as the unfairness that had hung in the air moments before was replaced with restored order. Phones continued recording every moment, capturing the unmistakable truth that wrongdoing does not go unpunished. Coco's actions had not only corrected an immediate injustice, but had also set a visible example for anyone watching. Integrity, courage, and calm authority prevail even in the face of arrogance and corruption. The wet asphalt reflected flashing lights, adding a cinematic depth to the scene, emphasizing the stark contrast between those who abused their power and the woman who embodied the law. Every whisper, every gasp, every subtle nod of respect from the crowd reinforced the reality of what had just occurred. In that charged moment, the audience could feel the satisfaction of justice being served, the powerful emotional closure of watching an injustice reversed in real time. Coco Jones stood at the center of it all, calm, composed, and utterly unshaken. A living testament to the power of law, courage, and unwavering integrity. Coco Jones slid her D badge back into her jacket, her movements calm and deliberate, and walked steadily toward her black SUV. The flashing lights of the police cars reflected across the wet street, illuminating the determined calm in her eyes. She paused for a moment, looking back at the corrupt officers now being led away, their arrogance shattered, their futures uncertain. Her voice carried clearly across the quiet street as she said, "Power is nothing without integrity." The words resonated with everyone watching, a reminder that authority alone means nothing without responsibility and honor. Investigations would follow. The officers would face job loss, public exposure, and criminal charges, and the lesson was clear. Corruption and abuse of power do not go unpunished. The bystanders and crowd that had witnessed the entire ordeal now exhaled, a mixture of relief, awe, and respect settling over them. Phones still captured the scene, evidence that would circulate far beyond this street, showing justice delivered in real time. Coco opened the SUV door, sliding in with the same calm composure she had maintained throughout the confrontation, her presence leaving a lasting impression on everyone present. The audience is left with a question echoing in the air, compelling them to reflect on their own reactions. What would you have done if you witnessed this corruption?